What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 22 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. It has been a while. We are finally back, though, ready to talk some Ohio sports with you guys. I'm Jared, back again with my good buddy Ian. Ian, how you doing, man?
Living the dream, man. Glad to have this thing rolling again and glad to be back on.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, that's for sure. I mean, a lot's happened in the past few months, not only in our lives, but in the Ohio sports world, which has been pretty great. We've seen a lot of things. We're not going to recap it all because I'm sure you guys have seen it, but we are ready to catch you up on the stuff that's happened in the past week. So without further ado, let's just get into it. For those of you who may be new to our show, we usually start each episode off with our best and worst of this past week in sports. So, Ian, I'm going to let you begin. Give me your best and worst, brother.
My best. It has now been 8 days since the Cincinnati Reds have traded the beloved second baseman, Brandon Phillips. I know we'll get into that deal more later in the show, but it shows that this team's executives are all in on this rebuild, and that's very important. You have to trust the process. It's never easy seeing players like Phillips or guys go, especially fan favorites. It wasn't easy seeing Chapman, Cueto, and Frazier go either, but it shows that they are going through with the process. You just have to trust it. My worst, there have been numerous reports and rumors that writers are filling the internet up with about my Browns possibly trading the number one overall pick in 2017 for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I like Jimmy G, but it would not take the number one pick to get him, nor do I think the New England Patriots are seeking that in return. Another rumor that is swirling around that I absolutely despise is the fact that the Browns are interested in Tyrod Taylor. I don't want to get too much into this, but it's just a hard pass on Tyrod Taylor for me.
Yeah, I don't think Ty God would be that much of a fit. He's not really that much of an improvement from RG3 in Cleveland. And also, if New England was able to get the number one overall pick from you guys, that would be the most Cleveland thing that has ever happened. Ever. That would be the most Cleveland thing. For Jimmy Garoppolo, a backup quarterback. Unbelievable. But I doubt that happens, but still. I'm going to start with my worst of the week. And my worst of the week was the NBA All-Star Weekend in general. Just absolutely atrocious. Everything about it was boring. The dunk contest sucked. Last year's dunk contest with Aaron Gordon, it was insanely exciting. This year, not so much. The drones, that was all stupid. None of the dunks anymore are original. It's all boring. Three-point shootout was stupid. It's all dumb. The All-Star game in general, I mean, come on. Play some defense, some kind. That's what – I mean, I know everybody wants to see highlights and dunks and stuff, and that's all fine, but come on. It's so boring anymore. In my opinion, it's not even worth it anymore. It's just like the Pro Bowl in the NFL. It's a waste of time. It's an opportunity for these players to get hurt. I know it's fun and it's a break for them, but just give them a vacation, a little week off, and let's get back to the season. It's so boring. My best of the week also involves the NBA and involves the New Orleans Pelicans. Late last night, Wojo from Yahoo Sports announced that the New Orleans Pelicans had acquired DeMarcus Cousins from the Sacramento Kings in exchange for Buddy Hield, a 2017 first-round pick, and Tyreek Evans. Pretty damn good return, if you ask me. I know people are saying, well, Cousins says he's not going to re-sign with the Pelicans. You don't know that yet. He's going to get there. He's going to play with a good friend in Anthony Davis, two Kentucky boys. That's the best front court in the NBA now, Ian. Like, it's easily the best front court. DeMarcus Cousins is the best center in the league. There's no close second, in my opinion. Anthony Davis is arguably one of the most talented players in the league, one of the best forwards. He can even play the three position now because he's developed a jump shot. So the Pelicans now are a scary possible option for the playoffs to play Golden State, the 8th seed. I mean, it's crazy how good they got just with one trade. And what a stupid trade it was for the Kings. I know Cousins said he wanted to stay in Sacramento, and I know he's been kind of a turbulent figure there amongst their franchise, and they haven't been able to keep a coach because they say he's ran him out of there, but awful return, in my opinion, Ian.
Oh, yeah. Completely agree. I've seen comparisons where people say that Davis and Cousins are now, Tim Duncan and David Robinson. And, I think they have the potential to be far better than that. You said it. They have the best bigs in the league now, and they're athletic too. It's not just guys that hunker down low in the paint and just sit there. Boogie and AD are both versatile players that can come out and stretch out that court. And I know a lot of people have also been criticizing the deal as far as, well, it doesn't leave the Pelicans with that much more on offense. Drew Holiday has had a great season at point guard. The shooting guard, small forward position, you got E'Twaun Moore and Solomon Hill, but like you said, Anthony Davis can come out, play a little bit of the three. I think they're going to be fine. And like we were talking before the show, they're just 2.5 games right now out of that 8 spot in the West for the playoffs. And if they can sneak in there at the 8, I think they can cause some real problems for the Warriors because of their athleticism down low. So I think this is going to be fun to watch going forward. The 2 teams that are in front of them for that 8 seed are the Trailblazers and the Kings. So, I mean, the Kings just got rocked in that deal. They're going to falter. The Trailblazers are hit and miss. They really are. The Pelicans have a chance to break this thing wide open and get into the playoffs and cause a little bit of trouble. And if they can do something like that, why wouldn't Boogie stay there in New Orleans? So I think it's going to be interesting going forward.
Exactly. And he's from Mobile, Alabama. Mobile is much closer to New Orleans than Sacramento. New Orleans is a very fun town. It's an awesome town. So I don't see a reason why he wouldn't stay there, because there's a ton of pending free agents this offseason. If they can re-sign Boogie and maybe bring in a player like Paul George, who's already said he's not going to re-sign with Indiana, that could be huge. That team is a problem if they bring in another great player. There's tons of good free agents this offseason. So you could see maybe the start of a super team in New Orleans, and that'd be crazy, man, because that franchise has struggled for a long time. So that would be crazy. And now also on the other side, for Sacramento, it's now on Vlade Divac, because for so long it's been on DeMarcus Cousins. Well, we can't win because of Cousins' attitude. We can't keep a coach. We can't bring players in. Well, now he's gone, so now it's on Vlade Divac. If they don't succeed, it's on him. And I don't see them succeeding anytime soon, because they are in full-on rebuild mode if you trade the best center in the league. So crazy trade in the NBA. You love seeing things like that around the deadline. So pretty awesome. I'm glad to see Boogie there. And that will segue into our next segment, which is On the Radar, where we give you a team, player, anything that's on our radar right now. So I'm going to start with this. And on my radar is the New Orleans Pelicans. I posted on Facebook today. For those of you who know me, I wouldn't say lifelong, but have been a diehard Dallas Mavericks fan since Dirk came into the league. Dirk, Nash, and Cuban attracted me to the team. I've stayed with Dirk this whole time. Love him. He's my boy. However, if Boogie Cousins re-signs with the Pelicans in the offseason, I'm letting it be known that I am jumping on the Pelicans bandwagon, seeing as they have 2 of my favorite Kentucky boys. And get ready, Ian, because the John Calipari to New Orleans rumors will start swirling very soon, if they haven't already.
No doubt. You better get ready for that, because it's going to happen. And then you had texted me last night, John Wall is going to be an upcoming free agent too. So, you're going to hear all those rumors swirling with John Wall. Is he going to go play with the Kentucky boys? And yeah, Calipari, that's going to be in the news every single day. So people that watch ESPN, get ready for that. That's all that's going to be on SportsCenter. It's going to be a John Calipari overload.
Right. And Calipari was actually on Dan Patrick's show this morning, and Dan asked him about this, and he said, absolutely not. He's not going there. So for all my Kentucky fans out there, we're going to squash that right now. Cal staying in Kentucky, you heard it here first, but you're going to hear it every day until the end of time. As long as those players are there, you're going to hear Calipari to New Orleans.
I know that you're on the radar deals with the Pelicans, but I want to touch on something real quick. What the hell were the Kings thinking? I mean, it blows me away. Just days ago, Vlade comes out and says, we're not trading Cousins. You can talk about, this guy might have been bad for the organization. The coaches are leaving. They had Isaiah Thomas, and they said, Isaiah and Boogie didn't get along, and that's why they let Isaiah go for such a short price to the Suns. And now you see Isaiah is just, he's an MVP candidate with the Celtics. But I liken this situation to an episode of Seinfeld. And it's the episode where Kramer gets burnt by the coffee in the movie theater. And Jackie Child's acclaimed attorney at law is telling Kramer, don't go on the first cell they try and give you. We're going to go in there to this office. We're going to hear what they have to say. And then, if the price is right, we'll accept their terms for the lawsuit. And I feel like Vlade Divac did exactly what Kramer did in this episode. Kramer walks in after the representatives from the coffee shop were talking. They said, we're going to offer him free coffee, and then we're going to offer him a big, a price tag, like $50,000. And I feel like the Pelicans turned around and said, okay, we'll give you Buddy Hield and a first-round draft pick. And they could have been offering more, and Vlade Divac goes, sold, just like Kramer did with the coffee. Kramer only wanted the free coffee, never heard the price tag, never got the money. And, I mean, it's just – I think it's a clown show on the part of Vlade Divac because, you say what you want about Boogie, but he's the best center in the league, and the Pelicans just got a hell of a deal.
Yeah, they gave up nothing in return for him, and they get a chance to sign one of the best centers in the league who wouldn't have come there organically. He wasn't going to go there. He had to be traded there. He wasn't going to sign there in free agency. So it's a huge chance for them. If he does resign, it's an absolute home run for that franchise. And I completely agree. It's an absolute clown show. And I was telling you that the Pelicans actually inquired about Jahlil Okafor with the 76ers, and that deal was close, apparently, according to Wojo with Yahoo. That deal was close. I mean, Boogie Cousins is a insane improvement from Jahlil Okafor. So crazy. I just have to believe that the Pelicans just floated that offer out there, just like, well, we have to try. And then when the Kings came back and said, hey, we're interested, they were probably sitting there like, are you fucking serious? Like, okay, like, what else do you want? We'll send you whatever you want. I mean, it's insane. And I retweeted it on Twitter. Somebody tried to simulate that trade on NBA 2K17, and the game's like, oh, no, this is an absolute ridiculous trade. We're not going to do this. So if that tells you something, I mean, it's just crazy trade. But what's your on the radar, brother?
Well, spring training's here, and I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Baseball's back. I can't wait for it to begin. A lot of my on-the-radar segments until the season starts are going to be dedicated to some young guys coming up in the big leagues. And my first one's dedicated to who I predict will win the 2017 National League Rookie of the Year, and that's shortstop Dansby Swanson from the Atlanta Braves. He was selected number 1 overall in 2015 by the Diamondbacks and then traded to the Braves in probably one of the worst deals of all time, ranks just right behind the Kings deal with the Pelicans last night. But they dealt him for Shelby Miller, which was terrible, and also Ender Inciarte was part of that, who's now a Gold Glove winner. But Swanson played in 37 games last season for the Braves. He hit .302 in the short stint with the big leagues, had 3 home runs and drove in 17 runs. This kid's going to be a stud. One of the reasons I believe the Atlanta Braves are going to be a shock for some people this year, they've built a pretty good team around some veterans, and they've built one of the best farm systems in the majors with deals they've made and with drafting. Also, Dansby, one of the best Twitter handles in the game, Lieutenant Dan 7. So my on the radar is Dansby Swanson from the Atlanta Braves.
Nice, and that'll segue perfectly into the Cincinnati Reds baseball. So spring training has begun. Baseball will soon be back. It's a great time of year. We have the NHL playoffs coming up, with the NBA playoffs coming up. Baseball's beginning. Great time of year. So the biggest news, like Ian alluded to earlier with the Reds this month, was them finally trading away longtime second baseman Brandon Phillips to the Atlanta Braves. In exchange for Phillips, the Reds received left-handed pitcher Andrew McCarron and right-handed pitcher Carlos Portuondo, or however you pronounce it. I don't know. But the kicker in that trade was the Reds will also pay $13 million of the remaining $14 million on BP's contract, which that's a lot of money. Heard a lot of people, seen a lot of people criticize this poor return in quotations for the Reds, but honestly, this trade was more addition by subtraction. They've been trying to get rid of BP for a while. Now the Reds, like you said, they're in full-on rebuild mode. We've known that for some time, but they can now focus on getting their younger players like Peraza, Dilson Herrera. They can get these younger guys playing time and let them develop. That's the best way to develop, is to play. Odds are they're going to move Zach Cozart probably before opening day, maybe a little later, but they will move him, I'm sure. And odds are we're going to see Peraza move over to shortstop, and Herrera will get to play at second base. So pretty exciting for the Reds, you know. Peraza is a beast. He has to be playing more. So they've tried to move him for a while, and it's just like, what can you do? I mean, to me, it's strange that Phillips turned down a trade to the Nationals when he could have played for a winner, a team that's going to compete in the playoffs, to move to. I know he's from Atlanta, but it's just a weird scenario for me. I don't know why he would turn that trade down to go play for Atlanta. I know you think Atlanta may be good, but they're not better than the Nationals, you know?
Yeah, it was puzzling to me when Phillips turned down the deal to go to Washington. You know, Washington is an attractive destination, and former manager Dusty Baker's there, so it was a real head scratcher when Phillips turned that deal down. And it does suck seeing Brandon go. The romantic fan of me for baseball hates seeing a player like that go. You know, Phillips did so much for the city. That smile lit up the city at night. He signed autographs, would show up to, Little League games and stuff that he found out about on Twitter. I mean, he was a very big part of this city. And, we owe a lot to him. He was a great ball player and a good ambassador for the game while he was here. But the practical fan in me sees the reason why and understands the reason why he's gone. Yeah, it's tough to swallow that we're going to have to pay that much on his contract, but this is part of the rebuild. We had to get him out of here so we could bring these young guys up and play. And like you said, we already know what we have in Jose Peraza. He's a stud. He's a bona fide stud. They switched him around 4 different positions last year. He played a little bit of center field. He played a little bit of the corner outfield. He played second and he played short. You could plug that guy in.
And he played a little third base too.
Yeah, you can plug that guy anywhere in the lineup. His speed is, above average. He's not Billy Hamilton, but he is a fast base runner. The guy hits. He gets on base. He doesn't strike out very much. He puts the bat on the ball, and that's what we need. And then Dilson Herrera, a guy we got back in the Jay Bruce trade to the Mets. He has shown that he's ready to, go to the next level. He's not a sound hitter, but he's shown surprising power from time to time at the plate in the minors. But his greatest attribute in hitting is he's a low line drive hitter, and he can find the holes in the infield. So, single and doubles, those add up. I don't need a guy that's going to hit 50 home runs or 40 home runs. It's all about base runners. Get them on, get them over, get them in. He's a solid arm at second. He has room to grow as a fielder. And, with Phillips, yeah, he was absolutely amazing in the field. Won those Gold Gloves in Cincinnati. But the fact that remains is, statistically, he had his worst season in the field since being with the Indians in 2004 this past year. And while he didn't suffer really at the plate, you're starting to see a declining Phillips in the field. And that's what he's known for, is his defense. And, Father Time is not nice to anybody. And the fact is that Phillips is getting older. But a neat fact of this deal is Brandon Phillips was traded by the Expos to the Cleveland Indians for Bartolo Colon. Now Phillips joins Bartolo Colon in Atlanta. So I think that's pretty neat.
Bartolo Colon is a blessing to all of us who enjoy not only comedy and baseball, but the mixture of the two. Bartolo, you are the man. But yeah, I'm sad to see Phillips go. And actually, if you're listening to this podcast, whether you're in your car, you're at work, whatever you're doing right now, I want you all to do something for me one time. If you're a Reds fan, I want you to take your hand up, and we're going to salute Brandon Phillips on 3. 1, 2, 3. This is great radio. You can't see what we're doing, but we're saluting the man because he was an absolute legend. He'll be in the Reds Hall of Fame. He's one of the best second basemen we've ever had, probably the second best second baseman behind Joe Morgan. But Phillips, I loved him. He was awesome. I loved him in Cincinnati. He was a great guy, like you said, great humanitarian for the city, great ambassador for the club and the city. He was a great guy. I'm going to miss him in Cincinnati, but it was time. And I'm glad that he does get to go play at his hometown. I'm sure growing up as a kid in Atlanta, he looked up to the Braves. And to be able to put that jersey on at the end of his career is probably a great honor for him. So I'm glad he does get to go do that. And I'm going to miss BP, but it was time to move on. It's past time to move on. And I'm glad. I'm very excited for the future of this organization. We have tons of great young prospects. We may finally get to see the mysterious Jesse Winker. Finally, he's kind of like our Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant, he sat down in the minors for forever for the Cubs, but I'm not saying he's better than Chris Bryant. But we finally do get to see Jesse Winker, Nick Senzel. I mean, we have tons of great quality in our minor leagues, and I think Reds fans should be really excited for the future. So, BP, we salute you, and thank you for your service to not only the Reds, but the city of Cincinnati and the great state of Ohio. But let's move on. Let's talk a little basketball. Cleveland Cavaliers. So lots going on with them right now. Apparently, rumors are out there that the Cavs are still kicking the tires on a possible trade that would bring Carmelo Anthony to Cleveland. So, Ian, I don't even know what to say. I wrote about this. I think it's absolutely ludicrous. I don't see where Carmelo fits in on this team. Who do you even send that way, Ian?
I don't know who you send that way because, I mean, Phil Jackson and James Dolan, they want to put the Knicks back on the map. And you've got a young superstar in Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis is awesome. But you've got a contender like the Cavaliers who everybody on that team serves a purpose. And the Knicks are not a team that's interested in just receiving a salary dump, an expiring contract. They need a return, and the Cavs don't have something that they're willing to give up in return for Carmelo. They're not going to get rid of Kevin Love. What you wrote about this, why would you want to trade for somebody who's injured anyway? But the Cavs would not part ways with Kevin Love. You've just got so much that's swirling around about this trade. It doesn't make sense. There's red flags going up everywhere. I think Carmelo would be a terrible fit. He doesn't play defense. The Cavaliers need somebody that's going to come in, offer valuable time, and play defense, play good defense. This league is an offensive league. You have to bring in more defense. Carmelo is always been about Carmelo. He's been that type of player. He's one of 3 players in the NBA alongside LeBron and Dirk that have a full-on no-trade clause. So he can nix any deal he wants. But I don't think Carmelo has it in his mind that, hey, I want to go play on a championship team. I think Carmelo could care less if he wins a championship. There wouldn't be enough basketballs to go around on that team. And like you mentioned in your article, Carmelo's not going to play third fiddle to LeBron and Kyrie. So, I mean, this is just – it's a terrible deal. It's a terrible rumor because he does not fit anywhere on this team. And in the event they would trade Kevin Love for him, you're going to move LeBron to the 4 because Carmelo can't play the 4. He can't guard. So you're taking away a valuable defender in LeBron who can guard some of the best small forwards in the game like Kawhi Leonard. Or, when the Cavs play a team like the Celtics, LeBron's often on Isaiah Thomas. So you can't put LeBron down low and then, expect somebody else to guard an elite scorer because it's just going to spell disaster for your team. It's going to ruin the chemistry. The Cavs right now, they need to just get healthy. I think once J.R. Smith comes back to this team, they're going to be okay. I think they made a great signing in Derek Williams, a former lottery pick. He's not, an elite scorer by any means, but he's always in the right spot on the court. And I think that was a great signing. Channing Frye has shown his value since Kevin Love went down with injury. This team just needs to get healthy. Maybe a couple of veteran depth signings, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and I'll go as far as, like I mentioned in my article, like you just said, Carmelo won't play third fiddle. Let's be clear here. It's LeBron's team. It's Kyrie's second in line, and I would put it Kevin Love is better than Carmelo. So I would say fourth fiddle. And he's not going to play that. There's not enough basketballs to go around on that team. And why would you trade Kevin Love? He's finally starting to come into his role with the Cavs. When he was healthy, he was playing great basketball. The team was clicking. I mean, they have a great chemistry together. So no way you trade Love away. Who do you even trade to bring in Carmelo? It's a stupid idea. It's a stupid trade. It's not going to happen. Carmelo is not going to leave New York to go to Cleveland. It's just not going to happen. So I wish we could stop talking about it. Please nix these rumors. It's stupid. Carmelo is a selfish child. He's a diva. He's not going to fit in Cleveland. He would ruin the chemistry in that locker room. So stupid. That's a stupid trade. As for, like you said, Ian, the Cavs will sign somebody. You know, Derek Williams was a good pickup. They did sign Kyle Korver earlier on in a few months. I don't know. When did they sign him? Was it this month or last month?
Korver was a couple months ago. He came over in a trade. It was an expiring deal for Mo Williams, but he's been a stud since they brought him over.
Yeah, so that was a great signing. He's a sharpshooter. He fits in perfectly on that team. LeBron loves to dish the ball around, so that's a perfect signing for him. And I know he had eyes on Korver. He's had eyes on him since he returned to Cleveland, so it's a good signing for them. I know that the Cavs did come out and say Iman Shumpert, they're willing to trade him away. They don't really have many picks that they could send away. They don't really have many players outside of like younger, like DeAndre Liggins, salary dump players, and cash. They have a lot of cash that they could send away. So I know LeBron said they're looking for depth. They need playmakers. I think he's looking for a backup point guard. So, I mean, you got players. I know Shelvin Mack is one that a lot of people seem to think he's on his way to Cleveland from Utah. Jameer Nelson from the Nuggets, and maybe Deron Williams from the Mavs. I mean, there's all kinds of options out there for veteran point guards that the Cavs could go out and sign, and they just need some depth. They just need to get healthy. The Cavs are playing for the postseason. The regular season means nothing to them. I mean, I think they're 3 games up right now on the Celtics got a good team. So that's going to be fun in the Eastern Conference. And we actually said that last year that would be a good matchup. So the Cavs are still going to get the 1 seed in the East. They're still going to win the East. It's probably going to be Cavs Warriors again. So they're playing for the playoffs. You know, a couple depth signings, I think they'll be okay. Another interesting piece of news that I could not pass up that I actually wrote about this morning. Kyrie Irving, the NBA superstar point guard and superstar for the Cleveland Cavaliers, believes that the earth is flat. Absolutely mind-boggling, Ian. I wrote about it insane. You're a Duke fan, so I'm going to kind of give you the business right now. What are they teaching your boys down there on Tobacco Road, Ian?
Coach K probably put his forehead into his hands and just shook his head. I don't know what Kyrie's thinking. I don't know. Just an asinine statement, really. I love you, Kyrie, but what are you thinking, bud? Like, you're an idiot. You're just a bona fide idiot for thinking this.
Yeah, it's been proven that it is not, in fact, flat, and it is round for years, like thousands of years. Like, it is, and that's an insanely asinine statement. Science has backed it up 1,000,000 times over, and just a crazy, crazy statement. Now, he did back away from it and say, "Oh, I was trolling people, I was joking." But I listened to the podcast, and he was serious and very sincere. So he's got shoes to sell. Being in the media like this is kind of a weird publicity thing, I'm sure. I think he does believe that. He did back away from it once he saw the negative, turn back from it. But that is just the most insane statement I've ever heard. And there's a lot of people out there that do believe that, by the way. And I'm a conspiracy theory guy. Like I wrote about, I've fallen in many black holes with conspiracy theories, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. Did we really land on the moon? Things like that. The earth is round, folks. I mean, that is crazy talk, Kyrie.
In defense of Coach K and the great basketball institution that is Duke, Kyrie was one and done. So chances are he didn't have too many science classes there. I'm sure he just took a few classes to stay eligible for basketball. So I want to put that out there. In Coach K's defense and in Duke's defense, he was a one-and-done player.
I want to put it out there. I want a full-on scale investigation of Duke's standards that they require for their athletes, because this is kind of fishy, and I think you guys will be under NCAA investigation in no time, because this is crazy. This is a crazy statement. So, but yeah, moving on. Let's talk a little NFL. My Cincinnati Bengals. It's not much going on. It's kind of a dead period in the NFL right now, but there is some news. Earlier this month, the Bengals signed free agent cornerback Bene Benwikare. I think I pronounced that right. I'm not sure. They signed him to a 1-year, $690,000 contract. Gives us a little depth at corner, which we've needed with injuries. He previously was with the Packers for a brief stint, and then was drafted. He was drafted by the Panthers in the 5th round back in 2014. So, good value pickup for the Bengals. They have some notable free agents that they still apparently have had no movement on, although Pro Football Talk reported today that the Bengals are in talks with veteran left tackle Andrew Whitworth to re-sign him and bring him back this year, which is it would be a big move for the Bengals, because Whit was our best lineman last year and our line was terrible. So if they were to lose him, even though he is a vet, he's still playing, he's still producing, so that would be a good signing for them. Now, the Bengals have a projected $45 million in salary cap space, so they are going to need to spend this offseason. I've seen all kinds of things, and now we're going to do a mock draft here later in the show, so I'm not going to get too much into that, but they need to re-sign Kevin Zeitler, one of the best guards in the league. He has been since he came in. Ian, I know you hope that he goes up north to Cleveland. I think they need to re-sign Andrew Whitworth. Dre Kirkpatrick, they can let him kind of go out there and test the market, because someone's going to overpay for Dre. I do think the Bengals should re-sign him because he did play really well last year. He's one of the best corners in the league statistically, but I understand if they don't. And then you got Brandon LaFell. He was kind of a question mark one for me, because he played really well last year. I think they could get him cheap and bring him back in. So that's kind of one that I would like to see him bring him back. I had no problem with LaFell, and if you can get him cheap, even better. And I keep seeing these rumors. At first I took it as a joke, but apparently people are really serious about it. The Bengals possibly signing Jason Pierre-Paul from the New York Giants, which I thought was ludicrous, because he's still one of the best pass rushers in the league. He's still producing, and he's pretty young. And the Giants apparently they may franchise tag him, but if the Bengals give him a better offer, I mean, they got a ton of money. And could you imagine that defensive line with Pierre-Paul, Geno Atkins, and Carlos Dunlap? I mean, my God, that's kind of making me salivate a little bit. So I keep seeing that pop up. A lot of experts are reporting that. So that's a really weird one for me. If that did happen, that'd be crazy, because the Bengals' best free agency signing in the history of their organization is Terrell Owens, a veteran Terrell Owens at that. So that's pretty crazy. And then I've also seen rumors of them possibly kicking the tires on bringing back Andre Smith if they weren't able to re-sign Kevin Zeitler, which kind of crazy. They could get Smith at a discounted rate from the Vikings because he didn't play much of last season. So kind of crazy. But one thing is for certain with the Bengals, they do need to spend this offseason. They have to spend some money. They really do. And we'll get more into the draft here after a while. Let's move on to the Browns, though. Whereas the Bengals had $45 million in cap space, the Cleveland Browns have over $100 million in cap space, Ian. That is unbelievable. I mean, that's Yankee money, man. So it doesn't really matter for them because it's not really a destination that anybody wants to go play for. But, geez, they could do so much with that money. Notable free agents, you guys must re-sign Terrell Pryor. You guys should, in my opinion, as an outsider looking in, you guys should re-sign Josh McCown, backup quarterback. And then there's a couple other players. Traymon Williams, he's older, cornerback. He's older. I mean, you could resign him. He's going to be expensive. And then Austin Pastor, is that right? Guard. Yeah. He's only 26. I'd resign him as well because young guards, I mean, you need that depth on your line, and your line was terrible. So, yeah, man, $100 million in cap space. That is insane, Ian.
Like you mentioned with you talked about the Bengals. They need to spend money. The Browns need to spend this money. You hear a lot of NFL players talking about Cleveland. When it's interviewed or brought up, like, well, you got to hope that you don't get a call from Cleveland or Cleveland wants to sign you or draft you. Aside from like what a lot of people believe, I'm not going to say it's a top destination, but players don't mind coming to Cleveland. It's just unfortunate that we usually get guys that are on the decline of their career, like when we brought in Dante Whitner, Tramon Williams, like you mentioned, who's currently a free agent for us. But I think they could really make some noise with the free agent class that's coming up, because this is a pretty good free agent class in the NFL. Not a lot of superstar names, like as far as quarterback or the skill positions. There's not a lot.
It's meat and potato. It's meat and potato guys.
It is
the classic guys that are going to win you games. It's not the superstar names that are going to sell tickets, but like a Kevin Zeitler, he's a huge free agent. Huge.
Exactly. And I have prayed and prayed and prayed that the Browns go after Zeitler. I'm hoping that Mike Brown does not give him the money that he deserves in Cincinnati, because I would love to see him travel up 75 North and join the Browns. I think that would be a tremendous improvement on our offensive line. Speaking of the offensive line, we're going to get Joel Bitonio back from injury. Shores up that left side with Joe Thomas. I think Cam Irving getting a full year under his belt this year is going to just make him better at center. And then, if you got Pastor, and then if you're able to bring someone in like Zeitler on the right side, I think that really solidifies your offensive line. It's not a tremendously great offensive line, but you've got guys there like Joe Thomas, who's a stalwart. Bitonio should have won Rookie of the Year. He was there, or Rookie of the Year in his rookie season, but you never give those awards to linemen. And if you can bring in a guy like Zeitler and Pastor, he's only 26. So you've got a young, good offensive line. I agree with you. We have to bring back Terrell Pryor. You're going to have Pryor, and you're going to have Corey Coleman coming back from injury. Baby Hawk is our slot. And then you got Gary Barnidge. Big Play Gary's still there at tight end. The pieces are there. We have to, there's always the story. We have to find something that works at quarterback. They did release Josh McCown a couple weeks ago. Still, the jury's still out on whether they're bringing back cheaper, or, if there's no interest in him. They're talking about bringing him on as a kind of like in a coaching position, as far as like maybe a quarterback guy to help mentor the young guys. I think he would flourish in that position. But there's guys on the defensive side of the ball that we need to go after too. One guy being Kawan Short from Carolina. If you can bring him in defensive tackle, you got him and Danny Shelton and up the middle. And one thing the Browns are bad at, I mean, there's tons of things the Browns are bad at. We give up way too much yardage up the middle in our line. And I think after firing Ray Horton as our defense coordinator and bringing in Greg Williams and switching out from the 3-4 to the 4-3, I think we're going to see more, better defense up the middle. And especially if we can bring someone in like Kawan Short to pair up with Danny Shelton, that takes it away. You've got young guys like Agba and Nassib that we drafted last year that showed glimpses. Agba was great, but they both showed glimpses of what they could really be. Jamie Collins re-signed with us. That was a huge get. He's a leader on our defense as far as the linebacking position goes. Christian Kirksey, an outside linebacker for us. One guy I would love to see the Browns go after, though, and there's Pro Football Focus has talked about it a lot. ESPN did an insider article on it, that the Browns should target Chandler Jones from the Arizona Cardinals for their third linebacker spot. I would love it, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's any way that Arizona lets Chandler Jones leave the Cardinals team. But Joe Hayden last year, he got back to later on in the season. He got back to that classic Joe Hayden form that we all know and love. I'm in the same camp as you. I don't think they should. I think they're going to have to overpay if they bring someone like Tramon Williams back. So I let him go. There's some talent in the cornerback position in the draft, and we're going to get to our first round mock draft here in a little bit, but there's some talent in the secondary early on that I think the Browns should utilize in the draft. There's there's a couple guys out there in free agency, like AJ Bouye from the Texans, that I think the Browns could go after that would really, really help that secondary. Jamar Taylor, they brought in from the Dolphins in a trade on the draft day. He was actually a godsend. He had a really good year for the Browns. So I think there's talent there. We've got all that money. We have to start spending it. We can't just sit on this money. If the quarterback position is always going to be one of those positions in Cleveland that we just scratch our head at and we don't know what we're going to do with it, just continue to make every other position great. Just try and fill every other hole you can. I know quarterback is that central focus in Cleveland every year, and that's what we're always dogged for. But that can't be our only focus. We can't just sit there and say who's going to play quarterback, because if we can't answer that position and we spend all our time on that, we're doing ourselves an injustice. Spend that money elsewhere, build this team up, and then the quarterback position will fill in itself. So,
well,
I don't know, man.
Like I've said on past episodes, before, it doesn't matter who you guys have at quarterback. You could have Aaron Rodgers. If he doesn't have anybody to throw to, if he doesn't have anybody blocking for him, if he doesn't have anybody to hand the ball off to, if he doesn't have a defense that can get him back on the field, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So you guys you have so many needs, you have no needs. I keep saying that. So I don't know what you guys do in the draft, but let's segue into that. We're going to do a first round mock draft. Do you want me to start, or do you want to start with
Go
the Browns?
for it.
Okay. So Bengals first round mock draft. I've seen multiple things. They have obvious needs going into the draft, which it all depends on free agency. So the Bengals have needs on their offensive line. They have needs. They need a pass rusher on defensive end because Michael Johnson has not produced since they brought him back. They need linebackers because next season, Vontaze Burfict, Ray Maualuga, and Vinny Ray are all free agents. Now, Maualuga is not a big deal. They'll re-sign Burfict, and they should bring back Vinny Ray if they can get him cheap. But they do have a need, and they've had a need at linebacker for some time. And then there's always – the Bengals love offensive playmakers, and there's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft that you could see them go after. In my mind, I think that they'll take a defensive end or a wide receiver with their first round. So what I think is going to happen, if they don't take a wide receiver in the first round, they'll take one in the second round. But what could entice them in the first round, and I wouldn't mind seeing this, is Big Mike Williams from Clemson. The thought of pairing him with AJ Green is unbelievable to me. So to have two huge, big playmakers on offense would be to pair with Tyler Eifert, and then you got Tyler Boyd in the slot, Brandon LaFell maybe as a 3. Crazy if they could bring in Mike Williams. Now that's kind of a pick that I don't know if that'll happen. I think they'll go more defensive end because they do need – their pass rush was terrible last year. So they can't give Michael Johnson all those snaps again this season. They just can't because he's not producing. So I wrote a blog a while back where I had Derek Barnett from Tennessee mocked to them. However, I've seen that he's fallen down draft boards, and I've kind of fallen in love with Solomon Thomas from Stanford. Big defensive end. He's quick. He would fit our defense perfectly, and he would be an instant improvement. So I think they could go Solomon Thomas. And then I know a lot of our readers out there and a lot of people have kind of fallen in love with Reuben Foster, linebacker from Alabama. So you could see them take Foster. Teams typically don't take a linebacker that high in the draft. You usually don't take a linebacker in the top 10 picks. So I know he's a stud. I know he would fit in our defense. But one thing about Foster is he is prone to concussions. He's had a lot of them in college, and that kind of scares me a little bit about him. So I think the more likely of the scenarios is you'll either see them take a defensive end, such as a Solomon Thomas, or a big playmaker wide receiver, as in Mike Williams. So let's move on to the Browns. Z. What do you think they will do in the draft?
Real quick, as far as your little mock goes there, the Mike Williams talk makes me sick because I think he's a perfect fit for you guys. I know you need that pass rush out off the edge, but pairing someone like Mike Williams with AJ Green, and then you've got Tyler Boyd in the slot, who he had a solid rookie season, and then you got Tyler Eifert. I mean, it's like the year the Bengals drafted Tyler Eifert. I sat there and I'm like watching Eifert fall in this draft, and I'm like, son of a bitch, he's going to be there for the Bengals. And it scares me to see the Bengals if they're able to draft someone like Mike Williams. Quick note on Reuben Foster. Exactly like you said, it scares me how prone he is to concussions. The guy was a stud in the NCAA, but man, those injuries, those concussions, they add up quick, and then you're just more prone to them. It scares me to take someone with that type of injury mileage on them. But
well, he's actually a perfect fit for the Bengals because our coach doesn't believe in concussions. So he's literally on record. Marvin Lewis is on record of saying, "I'm not so sure how proven concussions are." So he's actually a perfect fit for us. Now that I think about it, because of our idiot coach who thinks that concussions don't exist.
Wow, that just blows me away. Will Smith would love to have him over for a movie night and show him his movie. But as far as my Browns go, they own the number 1 pick in the draft. Like I talked about in my worst of the week, there's swirling rumors about trading that pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. Terrible idea. I think if they were to go after Jimmy Garoppolo, they could trade a later pick or later picks, not involving first-round picks. So all that talk is just asinine. One guy that we have been linked to since locking up that number 1 pick has been defensive end Myles Garrett from Texas A&M. He is a bona fide stud. He has been one of the best pass rushers in the NCAA, if not the best, over the last couple seasons. His stats speak for themselves. He's played great football. He stayed healthy. There was a little bit of a blip on the radar where he reached out to the Dallas Cowboys and said, trade for that number 1 pick, bring me to Dallas. I want to play for the Cowboys. That made me a little salty, but I don't think he was knocking the Browns. A lot of people compare this guy to Julius Peppers, and if there's a guy in the NFL draft that could turn out to be a Julius Peppers, I want that guy.
A young Julius Peppers, he was an absolute fucking freak. So yeah, absolutely, man. And you guys need help on both sides of the line, so that would be a perfect pick for you guys. But lately, I've seen mock drafts where they have quarterback Mitch Trubisky out of UNC going the number 1 overall to you guys.
That's not going to happen. Trubisky is a local boy. He's from up north in Ohio. He had a good college career in North Carolina, but I'm sticking with Myles Garrett at number 1. I have several different scenarios that I'm going to mock out and do articles for on our blog, but right now what I'm saying is at number 1, I want us to take Myles Garrett, defensive end from Texas A&M. We also own the number 12 pick that we got from the Eagles last year. I would like to see them pair that 12 pick up with another draft pick, move up the draft board, and it's going to take some maneuvering to get up there because I think they're going to have to get into the top 7. But take Myles Garrett at 1, get back into the top 7 with that 12 pick and other picks. Take Malik Hooker from Ohio State. I think Hooker is a stud. He's just gonna make that secondary better. We have 0 talent at our safety positions, and I think Malik Hooker is an instant upgrade of what we have, and I think he would be a perfect fit in Cleveland. So I would love to see Hooker there, or even if they want to trade up and trade for Marshawn Lattimore, I'd be fine with that at cornerback.
I was looking at a mock draft today, and they had at the number 12 pick, they had you guys taking Jabril Peppers out of Michigan.
Way too high on him. Way too high.
Way too high. God, I know we're homers in the state of Ohio, but he is extremely overrated.
He's very overrated. I think Jabril Peppers is a great athlete, but I think there was so much hype going into this season in the NCAA that everybody just fed into that hype. Malik Hooker got robbed of Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Peppers won that award. Hooker was far better statistically, and just by watching game film, he was better. So I think either a Lattimore or Hooker with that second pick, you're going to have to trade up to get one of those two guys. But I would love to see that happen. Way too high for Jabril Peppers, in my opinion. If they're going to take a quarterback in the draft, I mean, this we can talk about this for days, but I don't want to use one of those picks on a quarterback. I don't. I think they can make a trade. I'm a big fan of Jimmy Garoppolo, but it does not require a first-round pick to get him. I do not want a quarterback at number 1 overall. I do not want a quarterback.
We'll trade you A.J. McCarron for that number 12 pick.
You can go to hell. There's nobody that is available that is worth a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, I agree. And when I saw that teams are offering up, if a team offers the Bengals a first-round pick for A.J. McCarron, you have to take it.
Oh, yeah. If you're the other team, you have to take it.
You absolutely have to. I know people love A.J. McCarron and they love to dog Andy Dalton and whatever, but it's Andy Dalton's team. He's a winner. He's gotten them to the point they're at now. They're going to stick with Andy. They pay him the big money. That's just how it is. A.J. McCarron's a great backup. I'm glad we have him, but odds are they're going to trade him. And from what I've read, a lot of teams are interested in him. So if we can get a high second rounder, if we can get a first rounder, steal, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you're the team that's receiving the draft pick for the backup quarterback and you're getting offered a first rounder or a high second round, you take that deal in a heartbeat. That is a great move on your part, and you can always just draft another young guy. Andy Dalton is not an old quarterback. He's still got plenty of years to go. And I'm a big fan of Andy. You know, a lot of people just kind of turn their heads at me because I'm a Browns fan when I say, you know, I'm an Andy Dalton fan. I love the guy. I hate that he receives so much scrutiny and stuff by some fans and by the city of Cincinnati. I mean, like you said, he's the reason that the Bengals are in the position they're in.
Absolutely. You know me. I love Andy, so I'm not going to sit here and defend him anymore because everyone knows the story with him. I love him. He's my guy. So, yeah, but we'll continue to update our mock drafts, you know, periodically leading up to the draft. But there's a lot of possibilities that each team, both the Bengals and the Browns, can do in the draft. And it's pretty big years for both teams, in my opinion. The Bengals had a bad year last year. You know, we had been to the playoffs, you know, 5 years in a row. So bad year in our new standards. And we have a lot of holes that we need filled in this draft. And same with you guys. You know, you guys are a team that's on the uptick, and you guys need to continue to build that team to the draft, just like the Bengals did. So big years. This is a big draft for both teams. So we'll continue to update that as we lead up to the draft. But let's go ahead and end our show as we typically do with a bold prediction for this upcoming week in sports. So, Ian, I'm going to let you lead it off. What's your bold prediction, brother?
The NBA trade deadline is coming up on Thursday. Tons of big names are swirling around. Names like Carmelo, Paul George, Jimmy Butler. DeMarcus Cousins was on that list, but as we saw last night, the Pelicans robbed Vlade Divac and the Sacramento Kings blind. I'm going to give you two teams to pay close attention to. Those teams are the Boston Celtics and the Orlando Magic. No team possesses more draft picks in the 2017 draft than the Celtics. They are also in desperate need of a rim protector. I think Danny Ainge, I think he'll swoop in and cut a deal to bring in Orlando's big man, Nikola Vucevic. I love Vucevic.
Yeah, he can play.
Yeah.
He can shoot.
He can. He's deadly down there, and I think he's very underrated. The Celtics possess that Brooklyn pick for this year. I don't think it's going to take that to get Vucevic. I think they can toss around a couple other draft picks and maybe a Kelly Olynyk to bring Vucevic in. I really don't know what the Magic were doing, trading away Serge Ibaka for Terrence Ross. That was a move that puzzled me. But
also, let's rewind even further. Why would they trade away a draft pick and Victor Oladipo for Serge Ibaka? Insane.
Very true. This trade, though, this potential trade to bring in Vucevic, the rim protector that the Celtics need, it'll allow them to move Al Horford to the 4. It's something that he's been wanting to play for some time now that he's been with Boston. And just look out for the Celtics. They're on that cusp of becoming great again. They're very close to the Cavaliers, but they need another scorer. They've been linked to Paul George and Jimmy Butler both. I think you could possibly see a deal for one of those guys down the line come draft time. Or, well, I mean, Paul George is a free agent, but Jimmy Butler, I think you could maybe see that happen. But if they don't get another scorer, I think you're going to see a Butler reunion and Brad Stevens and Gordon Hayward in free agency. But I think the Celtics go after Vucevic. I think they land their rim protector by Thursday at the NBA trade deadline.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that they were going to go after Cousins, and obviously that changed. So, yeah, Crazy, man. So my bold prediction is the Cavs will actually trade Iman Shumpert plus cash to the Minnesota Timberwolves in exchange for Ricky Rubio. A lot of people, he's kind of flying under the radar. The Timberwolves have said that they want to offload Rubio. They really have no use for him right now on that offense. So I think that would be a huge addition for the Cavs. He's not a great scorer, but what he does do, he'll command that second team whenever he comes in, and he is a distributor, and he fits in perfectly what LeBron wants. He wants a veteran playmaker. Rubio is exactly that. If you want a playmaker, he's one of the best passers in the league. So that's my bold prediction, that the Cleveland Cavaliers will bring in Ricky Rubio, trade away Iman Shumpert at the deadline. So that's it. But that is our show. That's episode number 22 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. It feels really, really good to be back. We apologize for the long gap. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened in between there. But we are back. We're ready to continue the show and continue to bring you news. Make sure you check out our website. We have a lot of good stories up there. I just posted one today about Kyrie Irving believing that the earth is flat. You can check it out at www.ohsportsradio.com. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave us a comment. Give us a 5-star review. It will really help us out. If any friends and family are interested, make sure you also have them subscribe to our podcast, rate and review it. Give us a like on Facebook, our page on Facebook, Ohio Sports Radio on Facebook, and interact with us on there. Twitter, at Ohio Sports Radio on Twitter, and we're looking for new writers. So if you are interested in becoming a writer and covering your favorite sports team for us, send us some of your work to ohiosportsradio@gmail.com. But yeah, it feels really good to be back. Thank you to everyone who's continued to support us through all this, and just keep it up. We got a lot of great things we're going to bring you in the upcoming months, so appreciate it. Ian, you got anything to add?
Feels great to be back, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. That was wise words from a wise man. We will see you guys hopefully next week with episode number 23 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show.